Good morning, Twin Flame Roses. How you guys doing today? So this is going to be a pretty long video, as you can see. From the cover of this, we are going to be doing the movie Holes, and I'm really excited to do this one. It's been a really, really long time coming since I've been working on doing this one. It's taken me at least 3 months. So, yeah, that's why I haven't been posting any videos recently. So we're just gonna get started. Before we even get to the start of the movie, we see a lake, and there's a pebble skipping across the water. As we know, the river is symbolic to cleansing. What if the water represents cleansing of the soul, or a reminder that even the warriors get weak and they need rest? Ooh, all right. Now, going on to the pebble, what if the pebble skipping across the lake is like the twin flame journey? Because this journey right here, it's bouncy. Here is my second theory. What if this is symbolic to breaking generational curses? Because sometimes the curse can skip generations. Oh, if that was for somebody, please let me know in the comments, because I do feel like that was meant for someone right there. We see the sun a lot in this movie. My sister Anna believes these are light codes for guidance and for discovering who you truly are. Each time has a different meaning. In the first scene, right here, it is very hot, and the sun is basically cooking them to a crisp. Karmic debt could be seen as the sun in this scene, because they are not getting any rest. When you're working out in the sun all day with no rest, you become weak. And when you become weak, it makes it easier for the karmic to manipulate and use the divine masculines even more. Ladies, that is going to be a long video when we discuss karmics, so you better get your popcorn ready when we do that one. We will get to what the holes actually represent in a little bit, but right now I wanted to analyze some lyrics for you guys. It says, "You got to go and dig those holes with broken hands and a withered soul. Freeze." There is something that needs to be discussed here. Divine masculines, even when you feel tired and wilted, you need to fight through it. The sun in this scene is like your karmic debt. The faster you do it, the sooner you can rest. You cannot rest on healing your shadow self. Listen to that again. You cannot rest on healing your shadow self. You must keep healing and fight for your divine feminine. The world will tremble when twin flames start reuniting, because of the amount of power we have when we are all together. I'm getting ahead of myself. There is a TV series I do want to go episode by episode, and those will start happening sometime around this year. It just depends on me and my sister's schedule for when those will be released. The movie is partially made by Phoenix Pictures, and What do we know about phoenixes? They fly. They spread their wings and fly. They never give up. Divine counterparts, we cannot give up on each other. The universe needs us united as one. You know that saying, right? United we stand, divided we fall. Right? Now we are on the ground because we are divided. We must heal ourselves, which is also healing the divine counterpart. I don't care how mad you guys say you are at each other. Love each other unconditionally. Sometimes what they put us through is still fresh. So we must work through the blazing sun so we can get a nice shady day. Okay, as I wrote that, my phone called my sister without my phone being near me, and that happened at 2:34 at my sister's time. That would make it 11:34 here. I cannot even make this up. This is God confirming the exact message I just said. We see the boys digging holes, and there's like a guard going back and forth, making sure everyone is digging the holes. Now, this can be symbolic that the karmics run the masculines, so the masculines are fearful of leaving the karmics, therefore staying in a bad relationship. Okay, I actually got a video for that one. It's gonna be a while for that one because I need to find out what I can and can't say for that video because I still want this to be remained anonymous. One of the guys there named Barfbag sees a rattlesnake, and he gets out from digging his hole and is so desperate to find a way out that he falls into a snake trap. Now, snakes can represent karmics, but it can also represent divine intervention. The boy's foot now gets bitten by the rattlesnake. My sister Anna believes he did this because he had no water in his canteen, and then he reached for the rattlesnake, which is like how masculines are self-sabotaging the relationship with the divine feminine. While this is true, I wanted to dig deeper into that meaning just a little bit later. We get a glimpse of the sun being like a transition into how the main character in the movie gets to camp. Keep in mind, divine timing and divine intervention is at play here. When we see the transition, there are shoes in the air that falls onto the main character's head. This can be symbolization that miracles can fall right onto your lap. My sister believes it is shining a light on faith and destiny. We will see more details to back up our theories very soon. I'm about to read to you his narration from the beginning of the movie. Stanley says, "All my life I seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time." My grandpa, Stanley Yelnats II, said it's because of a 150-year-old curse. Now, I really don't believe in the family curse, but when things go wrong, it kind of helps if you got something, if you can blame it on something. And for me, things went wrong a lot. Grandpa said our destinies are sealed. Could a pair of shoes falling out of the sky really be a part of my destiny? Ooh. I just heard blessings can appear in unexpected ways. I also keep hearing something about divine placement. I don't know what that's about, but that's pretty interesting. The cops catch Stanley, and is ask why he is running. I feel like that is symbolic considering how masculines do tend to try and run away from their destiny. Stanley's father is an inventor, and for the past few years, he has been working on finding a cure for foot odor. Ooh, I keep hearing ego stinks like rotten eggs. That was pretty good. Can any divine feminines preach to that in the comments? We see the neighbor peeking and talking to the cops about the Yelnats family. I do feel like there is someone in the party that is trying to get involved with things that they don't need to be part of. I keep hearing the word unfaithful, so maybe that's symbolic to someone. The cops go inside and find a poster of the guy's shoes, which the baseball player had given away to charity, so they believe that Stanley is the one who stole the shoes. The grandfather tells Stanley that he is Stanley's great-great-grandfather. The mom says there is no curse on this family, and the father said something that is incredible. He says there is on the men in this family. Ooh. So, because they did not have a way to break the curse, the universe had Stanley go to camp, knowing Zero would be there, aka the descendant of Madame Zeroni. They go into court and find there is a spot open at camp, or he can stay in jail. And the kid chooses camp. Now, I can't help but notice that if he wouldn't have been accused of stealing and he wouldn't have chosen camp, or if the judge didn't even give him a choice, the curse would have lived on. But it was done at the right place at the right time. He is now on the bus to Camp Green Lake, where allegedly they help the troubled youth grow character. He then finds out it's not real, and it's really a place of abuse. I keep hearing looks can be deceiving. And also another word, it's mirage. So maybe that's significant for somebody. That was like the first time I've heard that word in a download. Bus can be significant for some. Are any of y'all planning on traveling? When on the bus, Stanley has a type of vision or a flashback of Sam, which we will meet his character later in the flashbacks. Sam looks directly at Stanley, almost as a sign. The bus he is riding on is the number 3344, aka angel numbers 33 and 44, and 3 plus 4 equals 7. So it's really 77-2 when you add 33 and 44 together. These numbers are important. Angel number 33 is a number that calls for you to cleanse your life and mind of negativity. This negativity may have been holding you down. Angel number 44 is a symbol of the divine guidance and protection. You have been blessed. And angel number 77 is fortune, and that you are aligned with your soul's mission. So congratulations, you guys. The inside of the bus says the number 14, which is a message that if you act with caution and wisdom, you will be successful in business, money, matters, and all life in general. Stanley gets off the bus and someone yells, "Fresh meat." This can be symbolic because nobody takes the divine masculine seriously at first. So once the divine masculines show others their worth, they give the masculine respect. He goes inside and meets Mr. Sir, who is eating sunflower seeds. Ooh, this is good right here. I heard clear as day, plant the seed and give it some water and light. Maybe some of you have a garden thumb. Or maybe you gotta plant that seed for your masculine and water it to awaken them and give them shade. That could be another theory right there. Mr. Sir hands the guard the soda and not Stanley. Mr. Sir says, "You better get used to being thirsty because you'll be thirsty for the next 18 months. Ooh, okay. So this can be saying the karmics will not treat the divine masculine right. Mr. Sir says, "Go ahead and run away. I won't stop you." And Stanley says, "I'm not going to run away, Mr. Sir." Yes, masculines. You can't run away from destiny, so face it. Just face the music I keep hearing. Mr. Sir says, "We got the only water source for the next 100 miles. That's a fear tactic right there, but I digressed. Stanley is to dig one hole a day, 5 by 5, and a shovel is his measuring stick. What if this is a reminder to stay grounded, stay balanced? I keep hearing the word stay humble. Maybe some of you guys are letting your pride get the best of ya. Mr. Sir says the longer it takes you to dig the holes, the longer you will be in the hot sun. This is like karmics manipulating the masculines. However, the karmic wants the masculine to be motivated, but in a bad way. You know what I mean? Mr. Sir warns Stanley about the yellow-spotted lizards, which is a poisonous lizard, and rattlesnakes. And he says, you don't bother them and they won't bother you. Probably a reminder to never mess with the divine feminine. Sorry, I just had to add that in there because sometimes we can be a snake if you piss us off. So yeah, you just better not piss us off. We are queens and we are waiting for you to see our worth, but you guys don't see it, you know? So that's why we usually just say whatever, fuck it. We see his counselor come in and he says, Stanley, just because you made some bad decisions in your life does not make you a bad kid. I respect you, Stanley. Now, he is an example of bipolar, and you will see why I say this later, but he is also an easy target to manipulation. Him and his counselor walk out, and he says he will be in detent. The counselor then introduces him to 3 of his stepmates, nicknamed Armpit, Squid, and X-Ray. I do feel like right from the start, X-Ray took a liking to Stanley, but has a hard time showing it. The counselor calls them Alan, Theodore, and Rex, which are the names that their parents gave them, and which is how society will know them by. We meet 3 more of his tent mates inside. Their nicknames are Zigzag, Zero, and Magnet. Right away, the counselor starts bullying Zero, and that pisses me off. But you know what? Let me tell you something. Stanley and Zero are the underdogs, and they will rise up to the top, even though nobody believes in them. Stanley is asking Armpit for the water filling station, but accidentally calls him Theodore, causing Armpit to put Stanley in a headlock. Now, this intrigues me because Armpit talks in a deep voice, acting all tough on the exterior, but I can tell he's protective of his friends. D-Tent has become a family, and what do we know about headlocks? Is to defend yourselves. So what I have concluded from this is that Armpit loves his friends but doesn't let anyone get too close because he doesn't want to get hurt again. This is like how divine masculines are hurting and they need a hug. They want to let us in, but they are scared, so they put up this wall. But I call out all you masculines out there watching this, open up to us, hug us, cry to us. Heck, I'm even manifesting this for myself with my soulmate. Sorry, guys. We love you, and we just want to be there for you. You don't have to be afraid to be your true self with us. In the cafeteria, Zigzag calls him over and tells him to sit down with them. X-Ray smiles and says, since you didn't dig today, you wouldn't mind giving up to Brad for somebody who did, now would you? And he says, no, you can have it. I feel like in this case, Stanley shows that he has a big heart, but also afraid at this point of the movie to stand up for himself. Squid asks why he is there, and he said he stole a pair of Clyde Livingston shoes. And at this point, they ask follow-up questions, as anyone would. And then Zero looks up and asks if they had red X's on them. Everyone gasped in shock, and Squid said to Stanley, you made Zero talk. Because before Stanley got there, Zero never said a word. And I noticed that Zero only talks to him, meaning Stanley. This reminds me of an inner child running to a divine feminine for safety and security. I will make a whole separate video on that later. Don't you guys worry. Don't worry. We cut to the courtroom, and apparently Clyde gave those cleats to the homeless shelter because he grew up at the orphanage. And he said that Stanley is no fan of his, even though we get a flash image of Clyde's signature on his poster. He wakes up, so we know this either happened just in the dream, or he was getting a flashback of the day he was in the courtroom. He remembers what his grandpa said about how it was Stanley's great-great-grandfather's fault. We find out he was robbed by Kissing Kate Barlow because he complied and gave her what he had. She didn't kiss him, which we know she only kisses the people she killed. And if she would have kissed Stanley, would never have been born if he would have kissed his great-great-grandfather. This is a good reminder right here of divine guidance and divine intervention. She then leaves him stranded with no food or no water for 16 days. The horn goes off and they get their shovels and their tortillas, which looks like it is smothered in melted butter because of how drenched it is. But I digressed. X-Ray purposely throws his on the ground and taking Stanley's instead. X-Ray smiles and walks away. And then Squid says, smaller shovel, smaller hole. So basically he did this on purpose as to save Stanley from digging a bigger hole than he needs to. Which this really adds on to my theory about him taking a liking to Stanley from the very beginning. I really think that was cute. I love it. The guys from his tent, except for Zero, are throwing dirt in Stanley's. He looks up from the hole, and we get to see Elia Yelnats, and he's scooping up manure from a guy's farm. I can't help but, when I'm reading this back now, I can't help but notice that they're both digging. That's interesting. Alright. He is scooping up manure from a guy's farm, and he is fond of the farmer's daughter and wants to be with her. So he goes to Madame Zeroni for advice, and she says for him to go to America because that is where her son is, and that is where his future is leading him, and not with Myra, who is the farmer's daughter. This is a reminder that life doesn't always go according to plan. Sorry, you guys. And that life can lead you in a direction you never thought you would end up. That's really good. He asks her father for his daughter's hand in marriage, and the father says, this man right here is offering his fattest pig. He asks, what are you offering? And Elian Yelnats says, a heart full of love. They start laughing, and we cut back to my favorite line from Madame Zeroni in the whole movie. Morris Minke is a schmuck. I love the way she says that. She gives him instructions to take the smallest pig, carry the pig up the mountain every single day, and make it drink the water from the stream while he sings, if only, the woodpecker sighs. The bark on the tree was as soft as the skies. As the wolf waits below, hungry and lonely, he cries to the moon, if only, if only. We will analyze that song later, but this is so important because Elian Yelnats is so focused on getting the girl fast, but the universe said halt. Because the universe's way of saying that good comes to those who wait is what I keep hearing. It's not only about growing the pig. It is building character and making the man stronger, carrying the pig up the mountain every day. He is tasked to take Madame Zeroni up the mountain while she drinks and while he sings the song so that she can get strong too. She says if you forget to come back for Madame Zeroni, that his family will be cursed for eternity. Yeah, let's talk about that. Madame Zeroni is an example of, somewhat karmic. I mean, I guess you could say somewhat karmic, but you could just call her manipulative. It depends on how you look at it, really. We come back to the present moment, and there is a dust storm forming. I can't help but think that this represents the masculine's hidden emotions. This goes for both masculine soulmates and twin flames. We see Mr. Sir listening to Spanish music while bringing the water truck, and I keep hearing from my guides to go back to your roots and connect with your ancestors. That's pretty good. Stanley has blisters all over his hand, and Magnus says, first day is always the hardest, right? I can say without a shadow of a doubt that this twin flame / soulmate journey is very rough. The first day you become aware of it, it takes a toll on you, and everything starts connecting. Tons of flashbacks to fights and everything, and all of a sudden the pieces fall right into place. Almost like trying to find the bigger picture in a puzzle. Wow, that was good. We cut back to the father asking the daughter which one she wants. And being not wise as she is, that's the nicest way I could put it, she picks a number and asks them to guess. This angers Yelnats, and he leaves, leaving her with the old man. In the midst of his anger, ooh, that was good. The midst of his anger, that should be a poem title. He leaves the country without carrying Madame Zeroni up the mountain, causing the family curse that is happening in the current time. We cut back to the present time. No surprise, Zero is the first one to finish digging his holes, and Magnus says he's the fastest digger at this camp. Zigzag says, I think he's a mole. I think he eats the dirt. See, Zero represents awakened because he just wants to get the karmic debt paid off so he could go on with his life. Stanley finishes his hole last, and nobody is there to help him out of the hole he dug himself into. So now he has to struggle to get out of it. Now, there is a saying in AA and Al-Anon. We say your bottom is when you stop digging and throw away the shovel. I feel this means that Stanley needs to surrender to the universe and trust in the universe's plan for him. He gets back late at night. He changes into his clean clothes and he sees Mr. Sir with a pistol. And he says, don't move. And he aims at the poisonous lizard that's next to Stanley. Stanley sees it is chasing after him, so he runs to Mr. Sir's side. Mr. Sir said, you better get some sleep, son. And he goes back to the tent, and his tent mates are asking a lot of questions. The lizard has exactly 11 spots. The horn goes off, and Stanley is writing a letter to his mom while a montage takes place of what he tells his mom that's going on at camp versus what's actually going on at camp. For example, the river, when really they're digging holes. Stanley shows Dr. Podensky a fish fossil, and Stanley asks if he gets the rest of the day off. He says no, that is not something the warden is interested in. And Stanley says, I guess there really was a lake out here once, and Dr. Podensky says there was a town too. The warden's grandfather owned the lake and half the town. We go back in time to where there was people getting off the boat and onto the dock. It's old western town, almost like the movie Tombstone. We hear Sam trying to promote his onions. He's talking to a guy and his wife. Sam sets up right outside the schoolhouse, and the school bell rings, and he catches the teacher's attention. I feel like she did like him for a long time before that moment, but the moment she saw him, her face lit up with happiness. She had the biggest smile on her face. He says the ancient Egyptians knew the secret of the onions, and he's telling all these tales and says, ask Mary Lou, all she eats is onions and she's almost 100 years old. And the teacher smiles and asks, how would you know, Sam? You're not a day over 25. This pleases Sam. He says, nature's magic vegetable, Miss Catherine. He then smiles at her like there's no tomorrow. He sees a guy in the back of the carriage, and his buddies buy some of his onion juice. And he says, what your friend didn't know is that the 11-spotted lizard doesn't like my onion juice. Now, this makes me wonder if Sam was the caretaker of this town. Sam gives Miss Catherine a special bag of onions. I feel like him saying that to her was his way of saying, you are special to me. And Catherine gives Sam her peaches. Giving each other things is their way of saying, I love you. They can't say it out loud to each other, so they say it in their own subtle love language. There are men looking and calling her an angel, but Catherine only has her eyes on Sam. That's adorable. We cut to the present moment to X-Ray saying, that was some lame stuff you pulled. If you ever find anything, you give it to me. He explains he has been here for 6 months and never found a thing. And he goes on to say, why should you get a day off when you just got here? He said, you know what I'm saying? It's only fair. So now he comes into agreement with X-Ray. This reminds me of a soul contract, which I will make a whole separate video on that. We cut to them all in the hangout room, and Stanley accidentally gets bumped into and falls on top of another guy at camp. The guy says, hey, watch it, and Stanley replies, you watch it. Ooh, so he's getting tough. The guy then kicks him and shoves Stanley to the ground. He tries to get up, then trips on the stereo cord, causing Stanley to fall on the same guy again, and these two start fighting. Now, Zero observes this and goes into instant protection mode and grabs the pool ball, ready to defend Stanley. After the fight is over, Magnet then says, hey, nobody messes with the caveman. And Stanley says, I don't want to mess with anybody, thinking that's the guy's nickname, when it is really the nickname they just gave Stanley. We cut to the nighttime where D-Tent is having a group session, and Dr. Podensky says, you boys get one chance at this life, and so far you've done a real good job at screwing it up. He goes on by saying, you screwed up your life, Stanley, Yelnats, and it's up to you to fix it. He said, not even Zero is completely worthless. Podensky then asks Zero what he likes to do. Armpit says, man, he only talks to caveman. Now this line gets me emotional because Stanley is Zero's only friend at camp, and their bond is all about kindness and technically trust. He is really the only person that has shown Zero any kindness at camp. Zero replies with, I like to dig holes, after looking to Stanley for permission, technically, but saying, is it okay to talk? And he gives Zero permission, and that's when he talks. And he said, Dr. Podensky says that you're in the right place for that. He gets a letter from his mom saying that she hopes Stanley's dad figures out the breakthrough soon because the landlord is going to evict him. Zero sees and asks what he's laughing at and explains that his mother made a joke about a nursery rhyme. He doesn't understand it, and Stanley says, I'm not comfortable with you reading over my shoulder. And Zero replies with, I can't read. Can you teach me? So let me put it to you this way. If 0 represents the soulmate feels comfortable with vulnerability way before the twin flame masculine feels comfortable with vulnerability. 0 trusts Stanley with this secret that he has been hiding and acts as he could teach him. Stanley says no because he's not good of a teacher and that he's tired from digging all day. 0 stands there in sadness. We cut to Armpit doing a dance and Stanley leaving 0 to hang out with the other guys, and 0 watches, feeling abandoned, which we find out later why that affects him so much when Stanley did that. We cut to them digging holes and Squid says, "Hey, look, a cloud." Magnet says, "Come on, little cloud, you can do it." And they say this because this is the first sign of shade they have ever seen. Stanley finds a bullet and X-Ray goes to look at it. He was going to show it to Dr. Podensky, and Stanley says, "No, why don't you wait till tomorrow? That way you get the whole day off." He says, "That's a good thinking, caveman." And we cut to the next day, and X-Ray gets his water, and he gets in a hole and drops it. You know what caveman found yesterday, pretending that he just found it. The doctor calls the warden that they got something nice, and we see the warden bolt out there. She then tells the guy to drive X-Ray back to camp and give him extra shower tokens and a snack. And she tells that Dr. Podensky to fill up everyone's canteen. He said he already did. She looked at him and says, "Excuse me? Did I ask you when you last filled them?" She said, "These fine boys have been working hard. Don't you think it might be possible that they have taken a drink?" She then asks Caveman to bring his canteen. She asks the doctor if he can hear the empty space, and he says, "Yes, I can hear." She said, "If that's too much trouble, you can grab a shovel while Caveman fills the canteens." Okay, I actually like that line. Even though she's kind of like evil, I kind of do like that line because it's like showing like, hey, like they got more worth than you guys see. You know, they have more potential than you guys realize. Everyone is now all digging one big maze, like a path, trying to find something. That is very important, because in this journey, there is no way in heck we can do this journey alone. This is a we journey, not a me journey. The pain we feel as divine feminines, we need to support one another. They are done digging holes, and Stanley thought he heard something when showering, but ignored it. We then cut back to the past, and the kids are getting out of school, and it's raining. And Catherine says, "We are going to have school tomorrow, rain or shine." Sam sees an opportunity, and he takes it. He walks into her class and says, "Hello, Miss Catherine." She says with a soft voice, "Hello, Sam." He then removes his hat and says, "I thought you still might want some onions." And she says, "Thank you, Sam." He observes the classroom and sees she has a tall pitcher to catch the rainwater. And he says his most famous line, "I can fix that." He explains he built his own boat and that he needs it to get it across the lake to his onion field. He says, "I'll tell you what, I'll fix the roof in exchange for 3 jars of your fine peaches." She shakes his hand and says, "It's a deal." He winks at her, basically saying, "I got you." He fixes the roof, and for a while she finds even the smallest of things for him to fix, so she has an excuse to be with him all the time. We cut to her teaching adults how to read and write in the night class, and a guy asks her out, but she said no thank you. He said, nobody says no to me. And Sam watches, and she said to the guy, I believe I just did. We cut back to the present moment, and it is like a big maze, like the one from The Shining almost. Armpit finds something and acts as if he gets the day off. She said, are you trying to be funny? Or do you just think I'm stupid? And Mr. Sir takes away a week's worth of shower privileges from Armpit. The warden says she wants results. Going back in time, we see Sam and Catherine talking, and she has a flower, a daisy, on the side of her head. And she said, this is the most beautiful schoolhouse in all of Texas. She says, thank you, Sam. And he gives her a quill from his hat, knowing she is a teacher. And you can see that Catherine lights up Sam's world, and that Catherine lights up his world as well. She watches him row his boat across the lake. I really think that's adorable. We cut to it raining again, and she is in the schoolhouse crying. Sam finds her crying with tears falling on her book. He takes her hand, and he says to her, I can fix that. She then stands up, and he kisses Catherine, while a guy on the horse that wants her views from the outside. I keep hearing the outside looking in. That just might be significant for someone. She then smiles, and she lays her head on his chest while he holds her. Cut back to the present. In 4 days, they have not found a single thing. Mr. Sir says, probably nothing down there. We probably would have found it by now. Dr. Podensky says, I wouldn't tell the queen bee that. Mr. Sir says, I'm not on stupid pills. The warden hears, and she says, what are you jawing about? If you can't get them to dig any faster, you can grab a shovel and join them. The warden says a line that I think it is hilarious. She says, I'm surrounded by cow turds. Man, how many times do we want to say that to our masculines, divine feminines? Amen. We go back in time again, and we're back at the schoolhouse, but this time it is being burned down, all because of jealousy and rage. Now let me tell you something. This is what the enemy will always try to do. The devil only needs a crack in your heart, a crack in your mind, a crack in your spirit, a crack in a door or window to get in and blow things out of proportion. He only comes to steal, kill, and destroy. The devil doesn't come alone either. He will bring 7 demons with him to just completely destroy your life, wreck your life, and steal your joy. I like to think of this as a reminder that we must be special, because if we didn't have anything of value, the devil wouldn't go after us. We cannot let hate win. We must let love win. That's the only way we can take our peace back from people who do not deserve our time and energy. She goes to tell the sheriff that the schoolhouse is burning down. We see him drunk, and he says, give me a kiss. And she says, you're drunk. And he says, I always get drunk before hanging, meaning they were plotting to kill Sam. All because they were jealous that he had her, and none of them did. He is now shot in his boat in the middle of the lake, and Catherine sees it and sobs. She was never the same after Sam died. He was her light. After he died, everything dried up, and have not had a drop of rain since that day. Going back to the present moment, Mr. Sir says they are going back to digging individual holes. Now, once again, going back to the past, I seriously don't know why they did that. They could have made the scene longer, but I digressed. Now, once again, going back to the past, we see Kissing Kate Barlow appear, and she visits the sheriff all dressed in red and killed him, then gave him a kiss. Now, if you remember from the beginning of the movie, the mom says she only kissed the one she killed. I feel like once Sam died, she wanted revenge on all men, and she became greedy and mean because they killed the love of her life. I also noticed she was riding on Mary Lou when she rode off, which is probably symbolic that Sam is always with her. Back to the present moment again, where Mr. Sir is filling waters, and the magnet steals the guy's sunflower seeds. And Mr. Sir comes back, and they believe Stanley stole it because they were in his hole. So they go knocking on the warden's door. Mr. Sir says they found something in Stanley's hole. She says, "Come in, you're letting all the cold out." She asks what he found and hands her an empty bag of sunflower seeds and asks Stanley to get the nail polish from the brass case because basically that was wasting her time. While getting it, he sees a poster that says, "Wanted, Kissing Kate Barlow, $500 reward, dead or alive." He hands her the nail polish and case, and she says it's made with snake venom. It's harmless when it's dry. She then slashes Mr. Sir with the nail polish still wet, and he starts shaking from pain and is on the ground. Stanley comes back out to find his hole is dug. He thinks it's one of the older guys when it was really Zero who dug the hole. I just heard clear as day. It's usually the person you would least expect. And he says to Zero, "Why'd you dig my hole?" Zero responds, "You didn't steal the sunflower seeds." Stanley says, "Neither did you." And Zero replies back with, "You didn't steal the shoes." He asks if he still wanted to learn to read, and Zero nodded yes, and they shook on it. I noticed the only time Zero smiles is when he is with Stanley. This is like slightly mirroring Sam and Catherine, because they were always only happy with one another. They were only happy when they saw each other. Cut to the following day. Mr. Sir is mad at Stanley, so he just lets the water drain and does not give him any water. But Zero shares the water with him because they are best friends. They have each other's back through thick and thin. They would defend each other till the ends of time. He tells Zero what he saw at the warden's, and then we get a flashback. It's a photo and video montage of all the people she killed, and many articles written about her. We go back to the present moment where he is teaching Zero how to write, and he tells Stanley he can help him dig holes so that Stanley won't be as tired to teach him, and that way they are done at the same time. He also says his real name is Hector Zeroni. We go to them writing in the tent, and he tells Stanley his past story and finds out that he used to sleep near where Stanley lived. he is only showing Stanley who he truly is. Nobody else knows the real oh my god, nobody knows the true him but Stanley. I am so sorry, you guys. The following day, D10 gives these two Lip and Zigzag, tries to be slick and try to trade in food for Stanley to dig his holes, because they are mad that Zero and Stanley work together to dig holes. Zigzag and Stanley fight, and Zero gets Zigzag in a headlock and chokes him. The guy had to pull Zero from Zigzag because he wouldn't stop. The warden and Mr. Sir find out that Stanley is teaching Zero how to read. Mr. Sir gets mad, and once again, Zero comes to his aid. Doctor tries to get him to spell something, and he slashes the doctor with the sword. I'm sorry, not sword. I meant with the shovel, and he runs. Stanley tells Zero to go and keep running. Back at the tent, Mr. Sir and the warden and the doctor are talking about Zero, saying how he had nobody, and warden says destroy Hector's files, that he was never there, and that nobody cares about him. And that's when he said he has no family, nobody cares. And Stanley walks in and says, I do. Mr. Sir says, the blood is on your hands, kid. It's nighttime, and the guys are talking. Armpit says, if he's not back by morning, he's dead. While the convo is happening, Stanley starts to isolate from everyone, almost like at the beginning of the movie, when Zero isolated from everyone. So it's kind of like they were mirroring each other in a way. He had a flashback of his great-great-grandfather surviving by finding refuge on God's thumb after surviving 16 days with no food and water. We then see Stanley cry and scream out for Zero. He sees a bus coming out, but it is just a new kid. The guy's name is Twitch, and he jumpstarts cars. Stanley gets Twitch's help to jumpstart the water truck. Stanley steals the truck and then crashes it accidentally in the hole. Then runs out to look for Zero. Everyone cheers on Stanley. And later he finds an abandoned boat. Under it, he finds Zero resting. He says, Zero, we have to go back to camp. And Zero says, I'm not going back. This is so good. Never look back. Keep moving forward. Which is probably, I guess you could say is foreshadowing another movie, Meet the Robinsons. Because that's their saying, keep moving forward. Zero shows Stanley peaches he found. Now, if you remember, earlier in the movie, we were told that Catherine made peaches. So what if Sam had her peaches in the boat with him the night he died and it was left there? They then see God's Thumb Mountain, which is the same mountain that his great-great-grandfather survived on. They are now walking up God's Thumb. Stanley almost falls and Zero grabs a shovel and lifts Stanley up, leaving Zero all bruised and scarred from the sharp end of the shovel. Stanley then ties up his hand with the broken cloth. We cut to the campers looking in the distance. Magnus says maybe he found Zero. And Squid said, yeah, maybe my mom would stop drinking and my dad would come home. Now this made me cry, because hearing this the first time, the only reason these kids ever acted up was because they didn't have a happy and stable home. Squid's dad abandoned him and his mom's an alcoholic. His only wish is for them to be all one happy family again. Zero starts coughing and throwing up, and Stanley catches him when Zero's sliding down the mountain. Zero was about to tell Stanley about the shoes, but he passed out, so Stanley carried Zero up the mountain until they got to the top. With Zero still passed out on Hector's back, when Zero was still passed out on Stanley's back, Stanley gets raided by flies, then realized there's water and onions. Little did they know they had found Sam's onion farm. Stanley and Zero drink the water and eat the onions. Then Stanley sings a song. Back at home, we see the father trying to work on an invention, and Peaches accidentally falls into the pot, and he realizes he doesn't smell anything, and that the secret was onions and peaches. I don't think you guys realize how important that scene is. Sam made onions and Catherine made peaches. They were always happy together. Stanley and Hector found peaches in the boat, and they found onions on the mountain. Not only does this prove everything happens for a reason, but it also proves that Catherine and Sam were twin flames. In the song, it says, as the wolf waits below, hungry and lonely, he cries to the moon, if only, if only. I wonder if this is like how Sam waited for Catherine. They wanted to be together and waited for the right timing. They know they couldn't be without each other. Even after Sam died, Catherine waited for him by his boat, even though she knew he was never coming back. She didn't want to be without him. What if the wolf saying, if only, is symbolic to Catherine wishing she could have saved him? Because it says the word cry to the moon. That's like calling out to the universe and crying and begging for Sam to live. She did cry at nighttime when the moon was out. So that adds on to my theory right there. We cut to that shoe scene, and it is nighttime when the peaches fall into the pot. And I can't help but notice that. And that's when they realize they don't smell anything and that the curse is broken. We cut to the morning and we see Hector and Stanley ate tons of Sam's onions. Hector wakes up and confesses that he stole the shoes from the homeless shelter. He threw them when the cops chased him, and that's how they landed on Stanley's head. They were both sent to Camp Green Lake. I can't help but wonder if that was Sam saying it is time for the curse to be lifted, making a situation occur that will break two different curses at once. Not only the curse on Camp Green Lake, but also the curse on Stanley's family. See, because Hector was a descendant of Madame Zeroni, and Stanley carried him up the mountain when he was weak, making up for his great-great-grandpa's mistake of not carrying Madame Zeroni up the mountain. They needed to be at the same place at the same time, which is why they had Hector be sent there along with Stanley. Now, what if they had Hector run away? Because if Hector wouldn't have run away, they never would have found the mountain. They never would have found the farm, but they never would have broken the curse either. Maybe that's what that's why Sam was leading Barf Bag to put his foot in front of the snake, because if he didn't do that, there would be no opening available for Stanley. And if Stanley didn't get the lake offer, or even get an offer to Camp Green Lake, the curse would have continued. Back at the camp, we see a caseworker coming back to look for Stanley, and since they are nowhere to be found, the woman is coming back soon with a warrant. It is now nighttime on top of the mountain, and Stanley says to Hector that he is glad he stole the shoes, or none of this would have happened. They both opened up to each other and had a heart-to-heart conversation. Hector says the stars look like a shovel to him, and I feel the reason the Hector loves to dig is because it's his way of releasing built up anger and buried emotions inside of him. Maybe that's his way of doing shadow work. Stanley says to Hector, I feel lucky. What do you say we dig one more hole? We get a flashback to Catherine sitting by his boat saying, it's so hot, Sam, but I feel so cold. And his spirit appears next to her and says, I can fix that. Someone comes looking for her and threatens her, looking for the loot. That's when she realizes seeing Sam was an illusion. She then says, I ain't gonna kill ya. They ask again, where's the loot? And she replies, there is none. And one of her old students, the one that's trying to hurt her now, she said, it has not rained since Sam died. And the guy says, you're gonna wish you were dead when I'm through with you. She said, I've been wishing I was dead for a long time. So basically, she died when he died, like her heart died with him. She prophesies that her family will dig and look for over 100 years, and they will never find anything. They then try to shoot the lizard next to her, and Catherine carries the lizards and lets it poison her, and she dies right where they killed Sam. That was her way of being at peace, finally being able to be with the one she loves. We cut back to the present moment, and they are back at camp digging a hole, and Hector runs to get another shovel so they could be done faster. He overhears the doctor and Mr. Sir fighting over the truck because someone had left the keys in the truck. And Hector breaks the lock and gets the shovel, returns back to Stanley and starts digging. They find a treasure chest, and the warden catches them, but it doesn't go in there because of all the yellow spotted lizards. They are not attacking the boys because they ate Sam's onions. It's the morning, and the caseworker comes with the warrant, so the doctor tries to hide the kids in the mess hall so they don't talk. Hector asks if his last name is his first name spelled backwards. Stanley says yeah, and Hector stays silent. The caseworker sees and wonders why they haven't gotten them out, and the warden tries to take the chest away from him when they do come out. But because Stanley taught Zero how to read, he knew it belonged to Stanley. Fast forward to the camp, to the main camp, and they tell Stanley to leave. And he says, I'm not leaving without Hector. He says he would be okay, but Stanley refuses to leave without him. Back at the mess hall, the guys see Stanley and Zero, and they all run out and hug them. They find out that they have no file of Hector, and the man gives them a search warrant of the facility. The guys recognize Mr. Sir and reveals his true name, and he found out he violated his parole. All three are now under arrest, and once they got arrested, it started to rain, as if Sam and Catherine were in heaven together, saying justice has been served. X-Ray says to Stanley, you be careful out there in the real world. Not everyone is as friendly as us. And Stanley says, okay, boss. And Stanley and Hector get in the car. X-Ray says, I will see you again. I will see you. And for me, that's where the waterworks come in. Because Detent became like a family. And they only had each other, so they bonded over everything. They've been through hell and back and made it out stronger than they were before they got there. We are back at Stanley's apartment and Hector is there. The father opens up the chest and realizes there are a bunch of gold bars, jewelry, and even certificate looking like bonds, and it's worth millions. We cut to Hector finding his mom, and finally reuniting, and later ends up being neighbors with Stanley and seeing all of D10 again at the pool party and with the famous baseball player that bought the father's invention and did a commercial. The movie ends with saying, I guess you have to fill in the rest of your holes yourself. Wow, that's really good. Because digging holes and filling them up was like doing the shadow work and healing the broken parts of them that are still shattered. When you cover those holes, you're finally free. So, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was Holes. I know it was kind of rushed, but I had to get through this because I wasn't going to make it longer than it had to be. But, I'm really glad that we finally got this one done. This is a huge accomplishment off our list. And my sister has her book coming out soon. We don't have all the details yet, but when we get more details, we will let you know. Look forward to the next one, because the next one's going to be either Starstruck or The Great Gatsby. So look forward to that, and I will see you guys in the next one.